Assistant security and camera systems. If you've set up a smart home, security may be one of the top reasons you did, and so it should be. There's many ways to use automation to help protect your home. From deterrents, such as using automations that give the appearance of activity in your home, which can be used when you're home or away, by the way, to remote monitoring of your home. Getting notifications of an alarm, it's one thing, but being able to check other indicators such as motion or even cameras can help you determine if there's a real threat or it's just a random raccoon setting off notifications. This can be the difference between ruining a night out while worrying or having the confidence of knowing everything is all right. With Home Assistant, you can set up sensors and cameras that'll trigger events that will help create your security system. Today, I'm going to walk through some of the ways that I use Home Assistant as part of my smart home security system, take a look at some conventional components, and talk about some creative ways to solve unique problems. If that interests you, well, let's run the intro and we're going to get right down into it. Now, I'm sure it's different everywhere, but my insurance company actually gives me a discount for having monitors that provide alerts to my mobile phone. And I've double checked with them. As long as I get notified of certain things directly to my phone, smoke, fire, and unauthorized entry, it doesn't matter how it's monitored, meaning I don't need to continue to pay someone to do this for me. And I used to. And if you still do, it's a good time to have a conversation with your alarm monitoring company. I canceled mine when I found out they don't even call the police anymore unless they first get authorization from me, and they won't send a guard by my house without additional charges. So if an alarm does go off, all they really do is call me and ask me what I want to do. And now that we all have smartphones, I don't see why anyone would pay for this. With that in mind, how about you go ahead and leave me a thumbs up if you like the idea of saving money. And if you want all the tips and tricks, don't forget to subscribe. So, let's take a look at my setup. First thing I have is my old alarm system. Using a small add-on network device, I was able to connect this old traditional alarm system to Home Assistant. This provides me with full control of the system to arm, disarm, receive notifications for anything that happens. This means all the motion sensors, the door sensors, they're now part of Home Assistant. Now, this was the most obvious and the easy way for me to start my system. This alone replaced that monitoring company. On top of that, I have a bunch of other sensors around the house, including some indoor and outdoor motion sensors, contact sensors on fence gates, garage doors, and even some drawers and cabinets I want to keep an eye on. I use presence sensors, water and leak detection sensors, and of course smoke and CO2 detectors. All of these are connected to Home Assistant to help form the fabric of my security and my monitoring system. I say fabric because not all of these are going to set off alarms or even notify me. But in the event of an alarm, being able to check some of these are going to help determine what is actually going on. Now, if you're interested in all the devices I use, check out the description below. And if it's available, I'm going to add a link. And you know how these affiliate links work? Clicking on them helps me, and it just provides you with more information and an easy way to purchase if you like. Finally, the ultimate input is actually my camera system. I use the Unifi Protect system, and you can check out a video I made on that specifically if you're interested or you're looking for some new security cameras. It's my favorite for a number of reasons. The biggest is, after the initial investment, there's no monthly fees for it. Now, my cameras also provide me with sensors. They can not only detect movement and trigger an event, they have AI built into them. And this can trigger events based on cars, people, animals, and packages. So I can tailor my automations to notify me of a person in my backyard, but ignore animals or motion caused by trees and other movement. You can also create zones to monitor. So for example, even though I have my porch camera that can see the road and driveway, I only want to get notifications if someone is actually on the porch. And this helps as it stops me from getting notifications when just a car goes by. But it makes sure that I know when that person steps onto my porch. Now, the great thing about Home Assistant is that you can add devices as you go. Setup of Home Assistant is super simple, and if you've never set it up before, check out my tutorials. Or stay tuned for an upcoming video as I have a new device I will be testing that comes with Home Assistant baked in. I'm super excited about this one. Once you get set up, you can slowly add devices, and your monitoring system can grow over time, and it can adjust with your needs. I've even used this at some client sites to help them keep an eye on their office without adding any additional costs. For those clients, we actually use Home Assistant as well to help keep the office running smooth. turning on and off the TVs, adjusting some lighting and audio systems. See, it's not just for home, it can be a office assistant as well. Back to security. I have a number of modes for my alarm system: home, away, vacation, and override. We call this one party mode because it's most often used when we're having parties and we don't want notifications or lights to automatically adjust. Nothing ends a party quicker than turning off all the lights at midnight. Now, these modes can be activated a number of different ways. For example, if someone leaves the house and uses the alarm keypad to enter away mode, the alarm system tells Home Assistant, and Home Assistant changes into that mode. Now, in away mode, most of the house lights turn off. The music in the house stops, and of course the alarm system, it's now armed. Also in this mode, some of my sensors will send notifications if they are tripped. For example, if a person is on my porch, or opens my backyard gates, or is in my backyard at all, I get a notification so that I can look into it more. I also have some automations that will randomly turn on and off lights in rooms with windows, just to make sure people think twice if they think we're out. And this only happens in away mode or vacation mode. And of course, we can activate this mode remotely if we're out and we forget to arm the system. When we return home, I use a number of sensors to detect our presence and automatically disarm the system. Essentially wakes up the house. This means by the time we enter, the alarm is off, and depending on the time of day, lights have turned back on, music is playing in the house, and we've even adjusted the volume to the time of day. Nobody wants music blaring late at night. Now, if for some reason the presence detection does not meet all of the criteria we set up to turn off the alarm, we can also manually disarm the system using the keypad when we get home. Vacation mode, it's very similar to away, but I set certain sensors to be a little bit more invasive, meaning if they do go off, I really want to know about it and it continues to notify me. Now, party mode, well, this one's pretty simple, but it's something I never thought of at first. It's essentially an easy way to override most of my automations. I don't always use it just for parties, but in situations where I easily want to disable those automations and not have to think about which ones and why. It's like a master kill switch. For example, on a regular day, if nobody is in the kitchen for 30 minutes, the main lights turn off and only the accent lighting stays on. But when we have people over, it's completely possible that no one's going to go into the kitchen for 30 minutes. But when that guest does walk in there, we don't want them to be standing in the dark. Also, like I said earlier, it can be strange if we're all eating in the dining room and guests see lights in other rooms all start to turn off. Aside from the fact that you might get to talk about your home automation. Now, one of the biggest things security experts are going to suggest is outside lighting. Keeping your house lit means less shadows for the bad actors to work in. It also means cameras get a better look at them if they do show up. I have a simple automation that turns my outside lights to 100% at sundown. They stay this way until about 11 p.m. At this time, they dim to about 20%. So I'm using a fraction of the electricity while still staying lit. But if any of my cameras detect motion, even just cars on the street, the lights instantly jump back up to 100%, and they stay that way until the motion has gone away for at least 2 minutes. This accomplishes two things. First, it's noticeable. So people are going to think twice. They may know that it was automatic, but they also know that their presence was detected, and that tends to scare people away. The second, my Unifi security cameras are all going to get a better look of what's actually going on. The light stays this way all night long, and it finally turns off completely at sunrise. And by the way, the other benefit with this is for us. If we come home late at night, as soon as we get close to the house, it lights up for us. This helps us spot that neighborhood skunk if he happens to be on our lawn before we get out and meet him face to face. Now, I also have additional lights around the house that turn on at sundown, including some in the backyard. Now, these lights, they all turn off at 11 p.m. But if a camera in the backyard detects a person, or if one of the gate sensors go off, they all get turned back on again. Now, this is helpful not only as a deterrent, but it's an easy way for me to turn the lights on if I need to head into the backyard at night. All right, let's talk notifications. First, depending on the mode, things are a little different. But in most situations, the notifications go to my phone. If I'm in home mode, I not only get notifications on my phone, I have a tablet by my bed. In the event of a notification, let's say someone is detected in the backyard or on the porch, first thing, lights in all the rooms with doors and windows on the main floor turn on. This is to scare anyone off who may be lurking around. Also, my bedside lights turn on low, just for me. And the tablet makes a notification sound, but it's not jarring. It's just enough to wake me up. The tablet screen automatically displays the camera feeds and the status of the sensors all around the house. This way I can see easily if the gate has been opened or if other motion sensors in the cameras have also caught movement. Finally, it has some buttons that make it easy for me to access additional lighting and a panic button. Let's talk about this one in a moment. These alerts have been set off sometimes. Most often, it's a random false positive, and thankfully, we've never had an issue. But we do have neighbors who have video of people on their porch in the middle of the night with a big antenna, and we believe they were trying to steal the signals for their car keys and ultimately the car. Let's hope we never have this issue. Now, in the event of a more serious event, this could be smoke, CO2, or one of the door or window sensors being breached. First, the alarm in the house is going to sound. This is going to trigger Home Assistant to turn on all of the lights in the house. The tablet, again, is going to display the camera feeds with all the main sensors so I can see what's going on. Now, the panic button. If I push the panic button, it's going to send an SMS message to my immediate neighbors, letting them know that there is an emergency and they should call 911. It's a pretty extreme option, but I've obviously discussed this with them, and they're good with it. Something, to be honest, I just hope I never have to use. Smart home automation, it's a hobby for me, so I'm always tinkering with this. The biggest challenge is trying to make all of this as invisible as possible. So, as we discover little things that don't work quite as expected, I continue to try and improve the automations. Sometimes this is by adding conditions to automations, and sometimes this means adding additional sensors to help stop false positives. And sometimes this means just, well, turning everything off and going party style for a while. If you have a question, you want to see some more details, feel free to ask in the comments. I have a link in the description to my website, yoyoKnows.com, and I'm going to post any additional information there. Like and subscribe. I hope you found this interesting and it helps you with ideas for your home automation journey. And with that, I'm going to see you in the next one.